Quick Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers.
Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Then there were 53, and what a 53 it has turned out to be, huh? Surprising. These, ladies and gentlemen, are your 2023 New England Patriots. Ready or not, here they come, which is kind of what I'm worried about. How ready is this team? They spend today releasing Bailey Zappe and Malik Cunningham. They have two tight ends who they've taken off the block. They've taken Matt Sokol away. They've also taken away Anthony Firkser. So you have all these different spots along your roster which don't seem very well prepared. For instance, they spent the entire offseason, 8 months, looking at an offensive line that was porous, yet they didn't really do anything. You look up and it's duct tape. Look, if everything goes their way, and I'm willing to suspend disbelief a little bit, then things are going to end up fine. I still think this can be a 10-win team, but boy, it's hope against hope at this point. We got a lot to get to here. Here's the game plan. Phil Perry will join us to talk about some of the jaw droppers that we saw released in today's cutdown day. Lighting it up. We have Matt Light joining us. He's going to talk about what the Patriots have to do against the Philadelphia Eagles and why there's an advantage to seeing the Eagles. Having Max back, that's appropriate right now because who exactly will be his backup? Then we will also, of course, try to get some comments if we have some time. Meanwhile, let's bring in the Senator Phil Perry. And Phil, down there at Gillette Stadium, it's a fascinating day. The first question I have for you is, obviously, what's the Patriots' plan at quarterback since reportedly releasing Bailey Zappe?
Bailey Zappe is gone. Malik Cunningham is gone. Trace McSorley is gone as well, Tom. They have one quarterback right now, and I think the hope is that they'd be able to add both Malik Cunningham and Bailey Zappe back to the practice squad if both of those players get through waivers. But, Tom, you and I have talked about this for the last few weeks. Feels like they need even one more addition for somebody who is more capable in the here and now to back up Mac Jones in case of emergency.
What's it say that the Patriots were willing to take the risk with Bailey Zappe of exposing him to the rest of the league and thinking, geez, I don't know if anybody else is going to want him. Additionally, you're also acknowledging we can live without him. I mean, is this as precipitous a fall as some people think it is?
You have to be comfortable. If you're the Patriots, you have to be comfortable with the fact that Bailey Zappe is not coming back to you. That's another fourth-round pick, potentially, Tom. Up in flames outside of helping you win a couple of games last year, and he impressed a lot of people when he did that. But less than a year later, for him to be out the door with no guarantee of him not coming back, never mind any compensation coming back. At least they got a player back for Pierre Strong when they decided to get rid of him recently. This is the kind of thing where I think they feel as though the film on Bailey Zappe, the preseason tape on Bailey Zappe was bad enough that they must feel pretty good about the fact that he will be back. And if he's not, Tom, I just wonder where you go next. There's not a lot of former Patriots or former Bill O'Brien proteges just floating around out there that are capable quarterbacks today as we sit here in late August 2023. You're talking about A.J. McCarron, Case Keenum. I was just looking around at the Texans roster. Case Keenum staying in Houston. There's just not a lot of options out there, so they are rolling the dice by releasing Bailey Zappe.
All right, it's time now for Quick Fire, presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Let's get right to it. First up, we're going to continue the conversation with backup plan. Phil, it must have been a fascinating meeting in which they talked about what are we going to do with Bailey Zappe, because they clearly didn't pass him around the league and say, anybody want this guy? They have to feel as if he has a chance to get back here. Could you envision him being the opening day backup?
I could. Maybe they did, Tom. Do you think there was any chance they tried to shop him and they found that there weren't any takers and they said, well, at least we'll get him through to the practice squad because nobody's going to pick this guy up on waivers?
Next up, it's hanging around Chad. Not sure exactly where we're going with that. Oh, that's Ryland. That's Chad Ryland. The kicker is sticking around. Buckets did the quick fire. That's why I didn't understand exactly, and he did a good job of it. Chad Ryland will be the choice at kicker. Nick Folk dealt to the Tennessee Titans. It's a dice roll.
It is. Again, this is somebody who, in my opinion, and Nick Folk, did nothing to lose his job. He was pretty consistent this summer. And I think the question you would have with him as you move into the season, when the weather gets a little more dicey, does he have the leg that you need to be able to function at that position? Chad Ryland clearly does, Tom, but he also, to me, was clearly a little less consistent as a field goal kicker than Nick Folk was. But you spend a 4th-round pick on your Chad there. You got to go with him.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. What will be interesting to see is how do the Patriots operate on 4th down? I mean, we've seen this team have to settle and not get into the red zone and try and attempt field goals that Nick Folk, generally speaking, has been able to knock through, even from 50-plus. Will the Patriots be cowed by the idea of having the esteem of Chad Ryland on the line? Never forget, always remember, a 4th and 13, which would have been a 49-yard field goal in 2007 in the Super Bowl. Patriots didn't want Stephen Gostkowski to kick that. They tried on a 4th and 13, got nothing out of it. So they do treat their rookie kickers a little differently. Here's Albert Breer talking on Juju Smith-Schuster recently.
Receiver, the underrated story here, Juju Smith-Schuster's knee is a mess, and that thing could explode at any point. And so you almost have to keep an extra receiver because of that.
Okay, directed by Michael Bay, well known for explosions in his films. I just haven't seen Juju Smith-Schuster that has been impaired very much at all during this preseason and training camp.
Impaired, no. Explosive as an athlete. Not talking about the components of his knee, but as an athlete, we haven't really seen that either, Tom. And so, listen, was Jacoby Myers explosive? No, he wasn't. He was steady. He was dependable. And I think that's what Juju Smith-Schuster has been for the most part this summer as well. He has been out there every day for practice. He hasn't missed a practice, even though we didn't see him in the spring. But his injury history is what it is, Tom. I mean, same with Devontae Parker and any other number of players that have dealt with things over the course of time. You have to have contingency plans. You would love not to have a contingency plan for a guy you just signed to a 3-year contract.
Do you believe that Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas are the contingency plans of receiver? They're obviously not identical to the players we're mentioning, but are those the contingencies?
I think Demario Douglas really could be, because Juju Smith-Schuster, to me, is best suited as a slot option. Last year in Kansas City, he really was both inside and out, but really previously in his career, he functioned on the interior. That's where Pop Douglas, I think, will make his bones in the NFL as well, just in a much different way with his quickness, his elusiveness, his ability to separate quickly off the line of scrimmage. So he, to me, looks like their 4th receiver right now. If anything were to happen to Juju Smith-Schuster, I think you get Pop Douglas right in there, and I'm excited to watch this guy play in a real regular season game, Tom, because we haven't seen much from him in preseason action. Yeah,
he's going to be a fascinating player to watch, and I think that Boutte is going to have a larger role than people think. I think that he is quick to plug and play, which is surprising for a 6th-round pick. Meanwhile, the Patriots made a couple of moves on Sunday to bring in a couple of new guys, offensive linemen. First up, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. is coming in a deal for Pierre Strong. What can you tell us about the 2 new guys, and could the Patriots be in a position to have to use them in the starting lineup?
Yeah, well, Vidarian Lowe is somebody they traded for from Minnesota. They sent a 6th-round pick out. They get Lowe back. He at least has some experience at tackle. Interesting to me today at practice, Tom, I was out there, saw him play both tackle and guard. So they are really shuffling things up along that offensive line right now. Calvin Anderson returned to practice for the first time today. He's been on the NFI list, hasn't been able to practice until today. He's on the left and right side at tackle. So still a lot of moving parts. I'm not sure Tyrone Wheatley Jr. is going to factor in as a contributor just yet. To me, he feels like more of a developmental option. Spoke to a source who gave me a quick scouting report there. Great guy, lots of athletic ability, but very raw, and so he needs some time.
All right, Senator Phil Perry, always appreciate you. Next Bats podcast, people check that out. After the break, we're going to come back and get the perspective of Matt Light, former Patriots offensive lineman and Patriots Hall of Famer, on how this offensive line looks and what he thought of Mac Jones last year and what he has to do this year to improve. Growth Potential, brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lepresti. As you just heard, look younger, feel younger, get your hair back with Leonard Hair Transplant Associates. This guy still has a healthy head of hair. It's Matt Light. Career resume, check it out. 48th overall pick, goes on to be a 3-time Super Bowl champ, first team All-Pro. My favorite is that he is a member of the Patriots Hall of Fame. We sat down, or we were both seated, and we talked via Zoom today about all things Patriots. Matthew?
So we're joined by Matt Light, Patriots great, and I need to get your off-the-cuff assessment of the 2023 Patriots.
So I would say this, right? Billy O, love the guy, have a ton of respect for how he approaches the game. I like the way he calls the game. It'll be interesting to see, some of the things that he's learned since he was here last. And how he'll incorporate those things, the different people he was around, whether it was the Nick Sabans or whoever it was, his time as a head coach. Those things have definitely changed him to a degree, but he's coming back to a very familiar system. And he's got a decent amount of weapons to work with, right? So I'm excited for Billy O. I'm excited for Clem and what he's going to do with the offensive line. I feel pretty good about our defense, but to be honest with you, I always feel good about our defense. It's Bill Belichick, right? I mean, so, regardless if you have the certain puzzle pieces that you really wanted, or, you got some guys that are beat up or not out there playing as much, I always feel good about the defense. Special teams, I mean, I think we all have some question marks in our mind. Are we going to have the special teams of last year, or are we going to have a much more improved unit that won't go out there and make, some of these killer plays that literally put you on the wrong end of the contest?
What's your appraisal of Mac Jones? What do you like about Mac Jones? What do you wish was a little bit better?
Well, look, I mean, I like the way his rookie season ended. I like the way that he approached the game there. I don't like what I saw last season for a lot of reasons, right? And as an offensive lineman, I don't ever want the guy behind me, to ever, put himself in a position that Mac did, right? So
in terms of?
Well, just in terms of the antics, the optics, right? Like, look at the optics of it. Forget about the why. The why is irrelevant, right? There's a lot of reasons. Like if you went to our military and you asked some of our top generals if they agreed with what they had to do, they'd say, no, I did not. But I'm part of an organization. This is my duty, and I'm going to fulfill that duty with valor and integrity, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I contend that he sucked it up for so long and then finally said, you know what, this is absurd. And it was
but you know what? Even if that is the case,
can't do it.
It's bigger than you, Mac. He can't do those things. And do I think he's talented? Yeah, for sure. I know he's talented. This will be the year to see, can he put aside, the things that can really make a workplace difficult and just focus on being the best version of himself that he can possibly be.
What I've seen and observed with Bill, though, is a lessening of urgency. There was a period of time where he felt as if the Patriots can ramp up. We'll be fine. We'll be okay. We got, we'll figure it out. And I think now slowly easing into the pool is to the Patriots' detriment because they're not beginning the seasons well and they're not closing them well either. And I just find it a different approach from Bill.
Well, it's a forced approach. I mean, what are his options? I mean, when you have rules that are in place, if you break them, you're going to pay for it. And look, it's not as if, teams can, hide what they're doing. There's over 50 guys in a locker room. They all have a voice, right? And they're all being told by the union, this is how we have to do things. And by the way, if those are the rules, that's how it should be done. I mean, look, everybody wants things to be safer. Everybody wants to create an environment where you don't see the catastrophic injuries and you don't see the trauma from a concussive, traumatic brain injury standpoint. And on that note, we have gotten light years ahead of where we were, even when I played, when it comes to TBI, when it comes to, the concussive episodes, and not stopping them, because you're never going to stop them, but how you deal with them once they occur. they're so much farther down the road, and that's a blessing for a lot of these players, right? But where we've actually gone the wrong way is basically in everything else. I mean, again, Tom, look at how they call the games, the rules that are now in place that didn't used to be there, how that affects the game, how that affects the outcome of many of the games, but most importantly, the product on the field. Even the people that are diehards that love the game and would never say anything negative, they will admit that the product is far less than what it used to be in terms of the simple things.
Do you feel that Bill is a kinder, gentler coach in general?
Well, again, I think the way you view your coach is how things are going, like, throughout an entire season, right? And I mean, look, they don't even put pads on after week 3, right? And what I can guarantee you is that we hit more in training camp than they'll hit for the entire year. And that's not that. Look, again, uphill.
It's unbelievable. The way they've changed the amount of hitting and to the ground tackling.
No doubt. So how could Bill not? I mean, he doesn't have an option. He has to. He's going to come across as a nicer, more in tune with, like, I don't know, how you feeling, how you doing, because there's not a chance for him to beat him up, So, and the guys that are coming in are used to that.
Are you apprehensive at all about the Patriots' offensive line situation right now? Adding in all the injuries, adding in the uncertainty, adding in the lack of reps, because I think the 5 out there, it's a representative offensive line.
Sure.
But when you look at, you got the Eagles out of the chutes, then you got Miami, then you got, a brutal schedule. I'd be a little edgy.
I think one way to look at it is that after week 1, we're going to know where the problems are. If you started out with a weaker opponent, you may take a victory and say, oh, it's great, but we really didn't get tested. After this week 1, you're going to know where the issues lie. Now, hey, look, maybe we'll be blown away because it is week 1 and there's a lot of uncertainty. Like, if you're a defensive coordinator and you're looking at this offense and you're saying, okay, what's Billy really going to do? And how's Mac really going to be performing? And where are the weapons that they're really going to kind of sneak in and formation us with and take advantage of certain areas? There's a lot of question marks. And so you're going to see a lot of jockeying for, what's the right mode? How do we want to attack this scheme on both sides of the equation, offensively and defensively? But the one thing that I guarantee is that there are going to be some glaring problems, and there's going to be some glaring problems up front. That's how it always is early in the season.
Hey, check out the Patriots Talk podcast for more of my conversation with Matt Light, including how to win tickets to the opener against the Eagles. It's called the Celebrate TB12 Game Day Giveaway. You'll meet Tom Brady. You'll be in a box with Matt Light. You'll meet plenty of former players. Check that on the Patriots Talk podcast or go to Celebrate TB12 Game Day Giveaway. Coming up